Greetings, metalheads. Welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George, and I'm back again with another Bands You Need to Hear recommendation. Another band, if you're not familiar with this one, you best check them out. So this band, death metal band, we can say with absolute certainty, heavy, crushing, murky death metal, formed in 2016, hailing from North Dakota. We're talking about bands named Phobophilic. Now, Phobophilic, as I say, been around since 2016. Only actually got the one full-length album to date, which was released in 2022, which is Enveloping Absurdity, which is this very article here. So actually, I'm surprised that I haven't spoken about this one sooner, because this album's been out for a few years. It's an album that I very, very much thoroughly enjoy this one. And so it's the only album, full-length album that we've got from the band, but it absolutely freaking crushes. It is a very murky death metal album, old school, bit of a kind of modern, newer death metal flair there as well. But it's a great one. And there was a lot of talk about Phobophilic and this album, Enveloping Absurdity, when the album came out, 2022, and for years after, in fact. So it's been a few years now. Hopefully we'll get a new album soon. There are also a couple of other demo releases from sort of 2017, 2019, I think. There's also EPs and other stuff as well that have been released prior to the full length. So if you want to delve a little bit deeper, then there's some really worthy material outside of this album. But just focusing primarily on Phobophilic and the debut, this album is brilliant. And I'm trying to get away from saying this is like band so-and-so or band so-and-so. I'm not going to do that. I don't really want to compare Phobophilic. I think that they've got their own thing going on. They're putting their own twist on something which is, let's face it, nothing new. Death metal, been around for a while now. It's been around and around. It's been replicated and twisted and contorted into all different shapes and forms. But it's death metal. So I would say this is for fans of some of those great newer, younger death metal bands like Celestial Sanctuary. Obviously, I'm going to get that name in there. They're a personal favourite of mine. Freaking brilliant band. Not too dissimilar. Heavy on the grooves. Certainly crushing. Bands like Moulder as well. Of course, Undeath. 200 Stab Wounds. Bands that are breathing some putrid breath into that very old school style of death metal. But if you are more of an old school death metal fan, if you like your good old Incantation, good old Autopsy, Cannibal Corpse, old school Carcass, you're going to enjoy this. Then Phobophilic and particularly Enveloping Absurdity is something that you're definitely going to need to check out. So I'm not entirely sure if the lineup is complete and still the same as it was for the debut album, but we had Aaron Dungeon on lead and rhythm guitars and vocals, Josh Power on lead rhythm, acoustic and synth, Christian Alm on bass, and then we got Vincent Tweeton on drums, additional percussion. So that's our lineup. All humans, no drum track, drum machine thing going on there. Drum machine, computer drums, whatever. This is a really solid album. So actually, in length, it is only 8 tracks, about 40 minutes, maybe just a little bit less. But this is a really good album. I've been listening to this one quite a lot recently, I'll admit. And I'm sure that, other metalheads out there with extensive collections, albums kind of get absorbed. They just kind of get sucked into the ether of the collection, and sometimes it's many, many months before you see that album again. Sometimes years, in fact. But luckily it's months for Enveloping Absurdity. It's been a few months since I last listened to it. And revisiting it, I've listened to it a lot, and it freaking kills. It's a really, really good album. One of the strongest, more modern death metal albums I think I've heard in quite some time. It kicks off with a track which I'll admit, I struggle to pronounce this one. Enantiodromia. whatever it is, it's a great track, a really weighty track. You know, there's a good sort of old school Death Doom vibe throughout, and it's a really weighty, heavy opening track. Good vocals. It's that real kind of low, guttural. It's almost like a bit of a haunting vocal style. It brings a little bit of Cryptworm to mind, another up and coming band, death metal band with that real guttural, almost gargling vocals. Maybe not as extreme as that, but this is bestial stuff. Those which stare back, great track, a little bit more chug in there, slightly faster pace, some seriously pummeling drumming going on there. The riffs are great. Love that thunderous low end. I always give praise for prominent bass tone, but that's something that I particularly enjoy, and I think it has a very important place, a very important function in death metal. Nauseating Despair is a great number. Again, I will say that these are all quite distinctive tracks. There isn't really any tracks that kind of just get lost in amongst the album. They're all notable. There's distinction there, which again is why it's such a strong debut. Cathedrals of Blood, Twilight of the Idols. That's another good one. Very good one, in fact. Crushing, great vocals. Preceding a sort of interlude piece, an instrumentally piece, which is a good one. Plenty of atmospherics in there. Individuation, good one. Before The Illusion of Self kind of levels buildings again with that crushing, weighty death metal. Brilliant stuff. Strong riffs in there. And then we get two brilliant tracks closing out the album. Survive in Obscurity, which is crushing, proper, skull imploding stuff. And Enveloping Absurdity, title track. Start to finish, a really very strong death metal album. Full of old school vibe. It's proper haunting, straight out of the crypts of the old school death metal ways. I mentioned bands like Incantation, but also, brings old Obituary to mind as well. It's firmly rooted in the good old stuff. So there's not much not to appreciate here, but it's got a bit of a different flair. Sounds good with its more slightly modern production, I suppose, but it's good old school death. There's not much not to enjoy here. Great vocals, capable stuff, that out there kind of haunting vocal, as I say. Great riffs, really solid. The guitar work throughout is really good. It's a good measure of death doom thrown into the mix, but also it's got that more faster paced, upper tempo stuff that's guaranteed to get some heads banging to it for sure. So all round, Phobophilic are a band that you definitely need to hear. A really strong debut. It's the only physical article that I have from the band, I must admit. It's got a good cover as well. It's pretty creepy stuff going on there, if you could even make it out all that clearly. Creepy aesthetics all around. But there's a strong EP as well, and some other tracks from the earlier years as well. So I'm hoping, as I say, that we're going to get another strong album following this one up, because this is a good start. Very good start indeed. So if you're looking for something heavy, weighty, and death metal, Phobophilic are a band you need to hear. Solid modern US death metal. So my friends, what are your thoughts and opinions on this band? What are your thoughts and opinions on Enveloping Obscurity? What do you think? If you haven't heard it, do check it out. Check out this band, check out this album. Do some research, you will not be disappointed. And then let me know what you think. Interested to hear thoughts and opinions of others on this one. So thank you very much for watching, my friends. Do feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. Support is very much appreciated. Steadily growing here. It's a lot of fun. Do check back soon for more reviews and recommendations of all those good heavy things. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, listen to Phobophilic and stay heavy.